Let's do it. It's time for Britonia. Now I know there's been a bunch of requests for different armies. You want dwarfs next. You want. I decided Britonia because when I finish this video, I'm gonna go paint up the Green Knight and get him in a bat rep. Well, I think tomorrow, to be honest with you. So I felt like Britonia. Also, it's probably one of my first loves this year. Oh, you know what? The thumbnail will have an accurate title for this video. I believe this one is called 17 Years Late, the Bretonnia Army Book review. This is, I believe, the oldest one. Can't think of an older one, but I'll go through and double check that. And also, a huge fan favorite. Everybody has a Bretonnian army. Well, had or wanted one. And you know what? I could just ramble too much about Britonia. Let's get into the actual review. But a few things I need to do the standard caveat. Disclaimer type thing at the beginning of all these videos. One, I'm reviewing this book for 8th edition and this book, not for any tournament and comp system. I'm going to reference things from a point of view of competitive. Everything I say will come from a competitive standpoint, but what competitive means to me is not just goofing around and not tournament. I think there's 3 levels of play. There's like, goofing around play, competitive play, and tournament play. And the way I define competitive, I know this in every video, but it just alleviates a lot of the comments. The way I define competitive is just 2 guys making a list, or 2 people making a list, just ready to play a game of Warhammer, both intending to try to win, but not necessarily doing the cheesiest stuff. And again, even though I really want to this time, I'm not going to review the characters. I'll save that for a video when I'm all done. All of the books. But I love a lot of the characters in here. And Britonia is all about characters. Heroic Knights. We're going to know the special ones. I think that is it. Oh no, I guess there's one more thing I need to point out. If I, for example, say the Skaven's Assassin is not worth his points, it's not worth really bringing. I mean that competitively. Obviously, bring everything, because I'm going to say I'm going to talk about a Hippogriff not being worth its points in 8th edition. You don't really want to bring it, but that doesn't mean you never bring it. I'm trying to find a Louis Leoncoeur model. I will absolutely bring it. It doesn't mean you never bring it. And your anecdote of the time your Skaven Assassin threw a Warp Star and killed the Green Knight doesn't disprove my yes, models are playable. But yeah, this will remember when I say nothing is not worth bringing, I mean competitively. Everything is worth playing. Just want to clarify that, because when I get going, I start rambling. I'm like, I don't like its point cost. I don't really like it. It's not really worth it. Just remember that as I go through this book. Okay, Britonia, probably one of my favorite armies. I already said it. It's all about cavalry. Huge problem for 8th edition. This book came out for 6th edition. I think near the end. I was young, I can't remember. And it did okay. It was really good in 7th when cavalry was king. And then now that Cav has a lot working against it in 8th edition, the book has dropped off, but that doesn't mean you can't win. And you don't have to go pure Cav either. And I mean, I'm gonna briefly talk about like the amazing color scheme of an army that we don't talk about the lore in these videos. The video would be too long. I am recording. I couldn't remember if I recorded or not. So the minor lore, every knight in the army, for the most part, there's some exceptions, like the Erins, are lords and landholders, so they have their own heraldry. So you can see a unit of 9 Bretonnia Knights of the Realm, and they have 9 different colors and patterns, and I love it. I love everything about the idea about this army. But let's get into talking about, I guess, the rules of the army first. Now, this is an older book, and if you watched any of the previous actually, I'm gonna call these reviews. If you watch any of the previous reviews, you see me flip back and forth because these books aren't like laid out very intuitively, or they're laid out in a way that, well, whatever, it made sense at the time, I guess. So I'll be flipping all over the place. But actually, this one's laid out not too dissimilar. Now I want to point something out. I think if you ever came in for a bat rep, and I've talked about that at many words. If you ever came in for a bat rep mini wargaming, I've talked about this. Sometimes I talk about this in other videos. I don't prepare. I didn't crack this open and prepare a video. I didn't script anything. One, I can't do that. It's not my thing. And two, I give you more honest and off the cuff response about things as I go over things fresh. It's a little different when I did the high elf review because I'm so familiar with the book. And I feel that I am very familiar with this book. I've had this book for near 20 years, but it's been a while, and I haven't played Britonia in a couple of years. So let's talk about a section. You don't really have a section, but basically army-wide special rules. There are a few. There are a number actually. But without having any weird order to talk about, the first thing about this army is it can form up in combat differently than regular. Well, I mean, I guess anybody can do it, but they're incentivized to run their knights, for example, in something they call a lance formation. So, I mean, typically you see things 5 models wide because of rank bonuses. Knights, Bretonnia Knights can rank 3 wide and maintain rank bonuses with only 3 knights, which is a huge boon for knights. I mean, you have a huge flank liability. Whatever, it's fun. As they charge into a tight formation. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about 5th edition when I first started this game. The lance formation used to have 1 model in the front, 2 directly behind them, 3 behind that, 5 behind that. It was a big wedge formation. And it was a pain to play, but it looked really cool. And then the archers could do like an arrowhead formation, but we don't have to talk about all that. So now the lance formation, since 6th edition, for 17 years, 17, 18 years, is 3 wide, as far back as you want. But you gotta fit your deployments, all right? Now, what are you gonna get from this cool lance formation? One, characters have to be in the front rank, but so do unit command, so standards, musicians, and champions. You can displace characters and hide them in second ranks if you so choose, which other armies would like more than Britonians, but Britonians have big beefy knight characters, so they're easier to put them up front. Like, you can do some things where you have nothing but 3 characters in the front line with like a 2 rollable save. You just have a very durable unit while the rest of your knights are attacking. Or you can put your Damsel in the second rank and she can still attack even though you don't really need her to. So cool. The 3 wide has bonuses within the rule set. You get your rank bonus for 3 models out of 5, as I said. And when you so in 8th edition we fight in 2 ranks, which is a slight buff to this lance formation, because the lance formation rule is when this unit of knight charges an enemy, all knights in the front rank and all knights along the edges fight as if they're in base contact with the enemy. That includes their horses. Now, once 8th edition comes around and knights are fighting in 2 ranks, it didn't nerf this, but it just became a little less effective. But no, sorry. What I mean is, it was a little more redundant for the Britonians because the second rank, the 2 knights were already fighting for the lance formation on the charge, but now all 3 in the second rank are always going to fight. But they still get a bonus, right? So like those horses are going to get their attacks, and the ones along the length are going to get their attacks, which is something you need for knights in 8th edition, because if you don't break your opponent, if they hold with horde, steadfast, and a bunch of other things, like you do not want to get bogged down. Your lances are your thing. You want that +2 strength the turn you charge, and then your combat effectiveness is going to drop, and you're going to rely heavily on your characters to do the killing. But again, your cavalry with probable rank bonuses. So lance formation, amazing. But it's not broken or nothing. And then we have Vows of the Britonia. So there are degrees of knights, and I might briefly discuss. Well, I will briefly discuss the minor lore of it. But just special rules you'll have on your knight according to like his rank. Also, the peasants. So the peasants will have a rule called the Peasant's Duty. Models with the Peasant's Duty use the leadership of non-fleeing knights within 6 of them. Unit standards and units with the Peasant Duty do not confer any additional victory points if captured. So you can peasants have bad leadership, but they don't have to be near the general so long as there's knights within 6. Awesome, because they can use the knight's leadership, which can be anywhere from 7, 8+. Not bad at all. And then if you want to bring a big block of archers, you always want to buy a musician, right? If you choose to buy a champion for challenge purposes, it's not always a good idea, but it's always not necessarily bad points to waste, but you never bought a banner, right? You're just going to give victory points to your opponent. Now, for the cost of a banner, I will often consider putting a banner in archer units because chaff units will have just a little bit more difficult of time breaking them. Also, we have defensive stakes we'll talk about. With a +1 combat resolution of the banner, and there's no liability of them getting extra victory points at the end of the game. I like the Peasant's Duty. And then we have the Grail Vow, the Questing Vow, and the Knight's Vow. They go with the Grail Vow first, but we'll start with the Quest. We'll go backwards. We'll start with the Knight's Vow. This is all your knights are going to have the Knight's Vow. Knights with the Knight's Vow ignore panic caused by friendly units with the Peasant's Duty. So, like orcs don't care if goblins flee, the lords of Britonia don't care if the peasants flee. Cool, I like that rule. Now, some knights choose to go search and get the favor of the Lady of the Lake. They go on a Grail quest. These knights are the Questing Knights. The Questing Knights have the Questing Vow. Knights with the Questing Vow may ignore panic caused by friendly units with the Peasant's Duty, just like the Knight's Vow. May reroll failed psychology test, which is not terrible, even though psychology is less of a thing in 8th edition, but, having a little extra redundancy, not bad. And cannot be joined by characters with the Knight's Vow. When you go questing in with other guys going questing. We don't care about people not searching for the lady's favor or who have already gained it. Well, I guess, no, that's not true. Because those who've already gained it can join them, but we don't. Characters of the Questing Veil cannot use a mundane or magical lance. Don't hold me to this. I might be talking up my ass here, but I remember correctly because it's been 17 years since I read the story about this. But I think the lore there is the lance is the symbol of the knight's duty, and they set aside their lance to abandon their knight's duty, their duty. I'm saying to go on the quest. And then if they achieve their quest, they will take up their lance again. It's something like that, but it's not important, I guess. The Grail Vow: if you have completed your Grail quest, if you have your Questing Knights has done their job, they become Grail Knights, and you'll have the Grail Vow. Now, the Grail Vow, you ignore her; they are completely immune to psychology. Not bad. Better in previous editions, but not bad. And cannot be joined by characters with the Knight's Vow or the Questing Vow. Any mauls with the Grail Vow always starts the game with the Blessing of the Lady. We'll talk about that later. There's the Blessing of the Lady, but these guys will always, if you have the Grail Vow, you will always start with the Blessing, regardless of whether blah 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 blah. And their attacks count as magical. They are tainted by the good magics. So yeah, nice rules. The next thing we're talking about is the Blessing of the Lady, which we just we already touched upon it. So without reading the lore, which is really cool. Basically, the Bretonnian army can always choose to kneel down and pray to the lady before the game starts, and let the opponent always go first. It's kind of a liability against a lot of War Machine armies, but yeah, whatever, you do it every time. And you gain some bonuses. So, let me just read this. The Bretonnian player may pray for the Blessing of the Lady before the battle begins, but after both players have deployed their army. The enemy can then choose to take the first turn or second turn. As the whole Bretonnian army must kneel and pray before the fight. The lady's blessing is automatically granted. Thankfully, there's no rule. The blessing affects all units and characters that have a Knight's Vow, Questing Vow, and Grail Vow. In addition, the Prophetess of the Lady and the Damsel of the Lady are also affected. Those are your wizards. The blessing also affects the mounts of any affected model, so Hippogriffs and Pegasus gain the benefit of the blessing so long as the rider is affected. That's actually huge. Getting, well, I'll explain. The effects of the blessing are as follows. All models have a 6 ward saves. Now we have Pegasus or Hippogriffs mounts with a save. And it's a ward save at that. But affected models gain a 5 ward save versus attacks of strength 5 or higher. So, having a decent ward save in all your knights all the time, not shabby. Knights having a 6 ward save all the time is pretty good. Every time, because we've seen plenty of models get their parry save. Every time a knight goes down, it's a big deal. Every time you roll that 6 and you're still in the fight, awesome. And if you get a 5 save for strength, because strength 5 attacks are what you're actually kind of afraid of. Even strength 4 attacks, to be honest with you. But strength 5 attacks are going to start chewing through your armor. At least you get that second ward save. Now, you can lose the blessing. If you are a coward, you will lose the blessing. If a unit or character flees for any reason, including breaking from combat, charge action, any reason, they lose the blessing. If a Bretonian player refuses to meet a challenge in a fight where a knightly character or a champion of the unit's knights could have accepted, in this case, there is more than wait. If nobody accepts the challenge, you're losing your blessing. I love that. I love the idea of that. And now we're gonna go on talk about units before we talk about a decent amount of magic items, because it's an older book, and virtues of the knight. Virtues of what's it called? Knightly virtues. Things. If you choose virtues of the chivalric knight, we have other upgrades we can purchase, which are actually really cool. But we'll talk about that when we get to the character type section and magic type section afterwards. Let's get into the units. Now, I think I want to have to, or I don't want to. I think I'm going to have to go back and forth. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about core first. Now, normally I would always do characters first, but sorry, I would normally talk about the characters first, but like characters are, I don't know, they're special, so I'm gonna leave them bland. So core units are gonna be made up of knight type things, obvious. Now, for example, your basic core units are Knights of the Realm. These are a 1+ in this army book. I have a feeling, and don't hold me to this, because you always want to bring in the Knights of the Realm anyway. I think this was FAQ'd out, but I've never had to I've never had that conversation with somebody. I'm not saying that's actually the case. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up right now. It's not important, because you're always going to bring in the Knights, unless you go super themed army. You want to go just peasants, but I have no desire to play a Bretonnia army without Knights of the Realm anyway. So these are your basic Lords of the Realm coming together to form a unit. They are 24 points on model. They are weapons. They're human stats. We all know human stats. 3s across the board essentially, with leadership 7. Except for these Knights of the Realm, your core unit. Core? Yeah, core. They have weapon skill 4 and leadership 8. Not bad. Heavy armor, lance, and shield. A Bretonian warhorse. They always will have a gallant. That's a sergeant. That's a unit leader. Bretonian's about heroes. There's going to be a hero. There's going to be the guy who's a little more heroic, a little more in charge. And then you can upgrade for a musician and a banner bearer. And you can have a magic banner worth up to 25 points. There are a ton of magic banners too. And I guess at this point where we can talk about the Bretonian war. Oh, and they have the Knights Vow, obviously. Now they have the Bretonian warhorse. This is a faction all about knights, right? They're gonna have the best horses. They have purebred warhorses. So basically, you know, if you're wearing heavy armor and you're barding on a warhorse, you're gonna lose 1 movement. So like an empire with the same equipment, an empire knight with the same equipment is gonna have reduced the movement value of the horse by 1 down to 7. Because we're purebred, we have horses bred to handle all that weight. They're going to be movement 8 at 24 points model, and they're core, a solid unit. And you have the lance formation, a solid unit. Now these are the established Knights of the Realm, but what about their sons? They're the guys who are, you know, they're getting up there in age for this medieval time. They're in their 20s, maybe even younger. Now that I think about it. They're not quite lords yet, but they're lords. They're going to be. These are the knights errant. Ones who haven't proven themselves yet. Maybe not fully in charge of their land, or haven't gotten their land, or their pops is still alive, or whatever. We don't get all that lore. Their heraldry is a little less embellished, not quite as fancy as the Knights of the Realm. And they're a little cheaper. They're 20 points a model, and they're also a core unit. Same stats as a human, but they are the same stats as a human. So they are weapon skill 3 and leadership 7. But they do have purebred warhorses, and they do come with the Knight's Vow. So you're saving 4 points a model for less weapon skill, less leadership, but you gain the impetuous negative. So after charges are declared, if any impetuous units do not declare a charge, or are within charge range of an enemy, they must make a leadership test to restrain themselves from charging. If this test is failed, they are forced to charge, and the test is passed. If the test is passed, they may move normally. In addition, so reckless are the Knights Errant that whenever they charge, The unit and any characters that have joined them are immune to psychology for the rest of that turn. So it is frenzy without the extra attack. It is a negative, but I love the lore of it. These guys want to prove their value. They want to prove they are brave warrior knights. They want to get into the fray. I love the lore of it. It's a bad rule. I love it. I love it. I've never had a chance to play with errant knights. Maybe one day I'll play it. Maybe one day. Okay, so those are our 2 core units of knights. Now we have the lesser folk. We have the men-at-arms. These are 5 points a model with less than human stats. So we get the standard movement of 4. Movement of 4. Weapon skill and bliss skill of 2. Now the sergeant will be weapon skill and bliss skill of 3. That's 1 model. The strength and toughness 3, which is solid. Average, right? 1 wound, initiative 3, 1 attack, leadership 5. But remember, we're going to have the peasant's duty, so we can use the leadership of any knight within 6. And even knights of the realm are leadership 8. Leadership 8 is solid. They come with halberd, shield, and light armor. And they can swap that halberd for a spear for no additional cost. I like the halberd because making them strength 4 is nice. Weapon skill 2 isn't bad unless you're fighting something weapon skill 5. Hopefully you can use magic to mitigate that, but I mean they're cheap. That's it. That's it. But they can add very valuable rank bonuses to close combat. I mean, 5 points a model for a halberd. I don't mind this unit at all. All right, we got Peasant Bowman at 6 points a model. They have the same stats as the men-at-arms, except they start with ballistic skill 3 instead of 2, which is good because you don't want ballistic skill 2 bowmen. They have hand weapons, longbows, which is nice, well, because of the English longbow, and defensive stakes. Excuse me, they can purchase light armor for 1 point a model. They can one unit army can replace its defensive stakes with the ability to skirmish for 1 point per model. I've never done it, but I probably should. It's not a terrible idea. And you can buy braziers for 5 points for the unit. It basically gives all their arrows flaming attacks, which I think you should always do. And you can buy standard upgrades. But let's so we got Peasant's Duty, Longbowman, with skill 3, not terrible. We can buy braziers for 5 points, flaming attacks, great. Make them 1 unit skirmish, great. All good things you want in your army. But we have this thing called defensive stakes, which I've never ever used. I'm going to go ahead and try to find these back here so I can read the exact rules so I don't just, Defensive stakes. Set up the stakes at the start of the game when the unit is deployed. Every model in the front rank has a stake base placed in front of it. These stakes also must be set up wholly within the army's deployment zone. If the unit makes any move at any point in the game, including reforms, wheels, turning, or fleeing, then the stakes are removed from the rest of the game. You got to set up your defensive stakes, and that's their position. If you have to reform even once, you're going to lose those stakes. But what you gain, enemy units charging the bowman measure distance to the stakes. Basically, you count as being 1 rank farther up, whatever. And then models can fight through the stakes if they're not there. No unit gains any charge bonus when they charge the unit's front. For example, lances do not get +2 to their strength. Great weapons will strike. Oh, okay, that doesn't matter. That's a remnant for old editions. Because great weapons used to swing first on the charge back when this book was written. Chariots will not inflict impact attacks. Special attacks that require the unit to charge to take effect. They don't get it. In addition, the charging unit does not count as having charged for determining who gets to fight first. The initiative value of the models, that doesn't, you know what? I don't have to read that. That doesn't matter anymore. That is a remnant of old editions. That's it. It's free. Defensive stakes. Aces. I never get my knights my archers charged. They get like shot to death, but they look cool, and it's you're not really paying points to them. So defensive stakes kind of awesome. I think that's all the core. So we're going on to the special stuff. We have questing knights, the knights who have laid down their lances and gone on the Grail quest. These things have the same stats of a Knight of the Realm, except for their +1 strength, their base strength 4, and they're 28 points a model. They come with great weapons, heavy armor, and shield. You still have that shield for shooting attacks. but you only have a 3-up save in close combat because you're holding your great weapon in 2 hands, striking at strength 6. Not terrible. And you can have a magic banner worth up to 50 points. We've already talked about the questing vow, but yeah, we got them. You know, I like them. Great weapons were significantly more appealing in previous editions because you could charge and strike first. Now they're kind of a liability. They can be a liability, but I love the idea of them. So the last thing you want to do is have a small unit of questing and charge in, and then a couple of them die before they swing. All right, we got the Pegasus Knights, the original flying cavalry. 55 points a model for a knight. I guess it doesn't really matter about the wounds, because how it works in 8th edition is they get the wounds of there are 2 wound models. So we have weapon skill 4 on the knights themselves, toughness 4 knights. They're only strength 3 though, but they do have lances. They're initiative 4, and they are mounted on a Pegasus, which flies and has 2 more strength 4 attacks. Yeah, I'm trying to mix it. There we go. Strength 4 attacks. But we have flying cavalry. So I believe you can't have, even though the models that were produced for these were barded, they're not going to be barded. You can't actually purchase barding. So you can have a 3-up armor save flying knight. These things are kind of auto include. If you want to use them to harass your enemy, or if you want to use them to stay behind your knights to constantly reform and do kind of a countercharge type thing, they have tons of uses. You only have 1 unit of Pegasus Knights in your army, though. I think it's kind of obvious. They're kind of powerful. So the job that old heroes on Pegasus used to do can be done by a unit now. They have everything good about Chaff, like Calv, these guys have, with better save, better combat punch. Everything good about Great Eagles, these guys do as well, but better. Now they're going to pay more points to them because it's a unit, but Pegasus Knights, I love them. Amazing models. Models that still hold up to this day, even though they're 20 years old. And then we take the Grail Reliquary. I can't say this word. Reliquary. Battle Pilgrims. Battle Pilgrims are a special unit of basically peasants, right? So we have weapon skill and ballistic skill 2, strength toughness 3, initiative 1, one attack, but they're leadership 8. On their own, they're leadership 8. These guys have hand weapon and shields. They carry a dead knight on a big base into combat. That's the Grail Relic. Sorry guys, I have some mental blocks while saying certain words. Can't do them. And they're just a combat unit which I've never had a chance to use, but will be soon because I have some coming in, and I will paint them up. Now they have some special rules. It's they have hatred, everything, and they're stubborn. Now, 8th edition introduced. I'm brain farting on the word because I can't stand the rule. Steadfast. 8th edition introduced Steadfast, which made this unit lackluster because you were just better off the deep ranks of men at arms because you're gonna get that stubborn. But like when this came out, that's a solid unit of rank bonuses. Unit strength was still a thing. Hatred, stubborn. But now we have parry. So we have a unit of parry. But if I remember correctly, that doesn't matter because they will always count as having. Oh no, it's not laid out. It's not written well. Yeah, they will always have the blessing of the lady. Unless they flee and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're gonna get that 6 up ward save anyway, and a 5 up against strength 5 or higher. So there's just no need for this unit anymore. It looks cool. I will get this unit on the table soon. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a whole lot of miniatures for it. Mostly, I'm going to dedicate every bat rep I ever play to Stormbolter John, who has found some for me and has very generously sent them in. The man won't take payment. But he's found me a Reliquary, and we also got 6 more battle programs. So I'm going to have like effectively an 18-man-ish squad size, because 1 base counts as 6 models, kind of 6 moves. So yeah, I'll get this on the table. I will do my best to try to find more. Like, I'll get that too. I want to get to like a 24-man or 30-man squad. It's just not needed in 8th edition, but it looks cool, and I want to get it on the table. I've no joke. I have never even seen Battle Pilgrims or the Grail. I've never actually seen the models in person in all my years in this hobby. Okay. We also have mounted yeomen. These are your peasants on horses. These are your fast chaff redirectors and type stuff. They do have weapon skill plus skill 3. You can buy light armor, but they have a rule. I don't know if it's been added. If they purchase light armor at 2 points a model, they lose fast cav, because that was a thing back in the day. That I'm assuming that they queued out. Not a big deal. I probably wouldn't buy light armor from anyway, because I don't want to pay 2 more points per model for these guys, because they're already 15 points a model. They do have purebred war horses. Not that it matters. And you can musician standard and an warden. It's just fast cav. It's just fast cav with leadership 6 and the peasant's duty. But don't get me wrong, fast cav. I love fast cav. But Pegasus Knights do the job I want them to do. But whatever. Okay, so we also have a couple of rare choices. We got the Grail Knights. The knights who have completed their goal, found the Grail, got all buffed up. These knights are all... Man, that's an important phone call that's coming in right now. And I don't want to edit this video. I'm going to let that go to voicemail. And I'm going to keep talking about Bretonians. That's how much I love this book. Okay. Stop. Okay, so Grail Knights. Weapon skill 5, strength 4, initiative 5, 2 attacks per model. Remember, in the lance formation, every model on the flanks are going to be able to fight. You can get a lot of attacks with Grail Knights. Now, they are 38 points a model, and they are a rare choice. You can have a banner worth up to 50 points. You will always have a unit leader, which is called... What's the unit leader called? No. You don't have one. Because they're all champions. They're all sergeants. All of them can accept the challenge. You know what? A strength 6 in the charge. 2 attacks per model. At initiative 5. At weapon skill 5. Living Saints. Getting that Grail blessing. All their attacks count as magical. I love this unit. Okay, and then we have the Tree Bucket, the Field Trebuchet. 90 points a model for a 4-wound war machine. It is a stone thrower. But instead of it being strength 9-3, it's strength 10-5. This thing is amazing. The strength 10 on the center hull, definitely strength 10 and 9 on the center hull, inconsequential, to be honest with you. The fact that the rest of it is strength 5, broken for 90 points. It's so good. It's just so good. And you know what? If I remember, I'm gonna go back and check. I don't think it requires line of sight, but I don't think that matters. No, it does. It requires line of sight, because even if it could fire a line of sight, it would have a. It doesn't matter. I would never do it. But it does have a minimum range. It can't shoot within 12 inches of itself. Whatever. Who cares? If its target is within 12 inches of itself, it's gonna get charged anyways. It's done. 90 points for strength 5 war machine. Because in my opinion, I use rock lobsters to kill war machines and big monsters, and then the strength 3 thing is good for killing, you know, whatever toughness 3 unit. This thing's strength 5 for the rest of the template. I'm happy to hit any unit in the game with it. Knights, a horde, anything. It's gonna get work done. Trebuchets, tree buckets. Awesome. Okay, so those are the units, except for the characters. Let's talk about here. We'll go backwards, because why not? We only have, like, with the exception of named characters, we only have 4 heroes. We have the Bretonnia Lord and the hero version of the Paladin. We have the Damsel, the Prophetess of the Lady as the Lord, and then the Damsel of the Lady, the hero version. So a Bretonnian army must have a Paladin in it, and it has to be a BSB, I think. You know, I'm not even gonna check that, because you're playing 8th edition. You have to bring a BSB. So you're gonna bring a Paladin BSB, standard hero things. You can upgrade his his Knight's Vow to a questing. Can he be a questing vow? Yeah, he can be a questing vow or a Grail vow. The Bretonnia Lord can do the same thing. You can upgrade his Knight's Vow to the questing vow, or a Grail Vow, obviously at points. The questing vow costs 12 points and 28 points for the Grail Vow on the Bretonnian Lord. You can ride your Royal Pegasus for either one of these things. We've all seen characters on Pegasus. We know what that is. And then their Lord himself can spend 200 points and buy a Hippogriff. Now, I kind of a liability in 8th edition, all the War Machine things can one-shot it, but because you have the Blessing of the Lady, is not quite as bad as other armies. Having that 6-up/5-up ward save on your Hippogriff isn't bad, but I still rather have my Bretonnian Lord in a unit of Knights, because if that Knight unit does not get the work done on the charge, if for whatever reason your opponent holds, you need your characters to add combat resolution in following turns. So I don't really like him on a Pegasus or a Hippogriff, but it's so cool. It looks so cool that you have to do it every now and then. But competitively, don't do it. But obviously, you can do it competitively. Rule of cool, do it every time. A Royal Pegasus, Hippogriff, movement 8, who cares? Large target, terror, fly. Strength, toughness 5, only 4 wounds, 4 attacks. Your standard Griffin type monster. And we can buy the Virtues of the Knights and magic items, which we'll go over in a moment. And then for the ladies, the wizards, a Damsel, the hero level is 70 points, 70. Level 1 wizard can upgrade to level 2 for 35 points, pretty standard. She can only use the lore of beasts or life. And then magic items worth up to 50 points. She does have the aura of the lady, which I know exactly what it does, but I don't want to missay it. So, an aura of the lady is she'll have magic resistance 1. The prophetess has the same thing, only her magic resistance is going to be 2, which is solid things. And you know what? You're not really paying a whole lot of points extra for that. Like, that's a solid ability, right? I mean, if you get hit by warp lighting, which is strength 5, your knights are going to have a 5-up ward save against that warp lighting. And one of these in the unit with her, the magic resistance is going to add to that. 4-up if a damsel's with them, 3-up ward save if a prophetess is with them. Now your prophetess is 190 points for a lord level wizard. Yet she doesn't get the standard toughness 4 that other human or lord level wizards get, but whatever. And she upgraded level 4 for 35 points, all standard. Horse and barding, Pegasus, all those things you can take. Magic items of whatever, but she can take Lore of Life, Beasts, or Heavens. Now, back when this book came out, Heavens was solid. 7th edition Heavens was amazing. Heavens was arguably the best lore, and you always took a prophetess for Heaven. You don't have to anymore, though Heavens does work quite nice for Bretonians as far as I'm concerned. Heavens is actually... Oh no, like Lore of Beast works very nice with Bretonians. Lore of Life works very nice with Bretonians, and honestly, I think Lore of Heavens does as well. So those are your characters. Let's talk about all. We have no magic to discuss. They only use the lores out of the rule book, but we have a lot of magic items and the virtues of the chivalric knight. Okay, so you can purchase 1 virtue per character, per knight. You may not have a second virtue. If, for example, the first virtue is called the Virtue of the Penitent, it costs 40 points for the first character to take it. The second character has to double that point cost. If you want it a third time, you have to triple the point cost. There's never really a reason to ever take the same virtue twice in an army. It's not worth the points, as far as I'm concerned. But if you got a theme going, whatever. It comes out of your magic item allotment, which is unfortunate. We've seen stuff like Bloodlines for the vampire counts. It'd be a separate point allotment. Like you can buy 100 points for the Bloodlines and 100 points for the magic items. Unfortunately for Bretonians, the virtues come out of your magic item allotment. 50 for the Paladin, 100 for the Bretonnian Lord. However, a Paladin may have a virtue and still purchase a magic banner worth up to enough. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. The Virtue of the Penitent for 40 points. The knight is stubborn. Though he may never join any friendly units, he may not take a magic item, nor may he ride a Hippogriff or a Pegasus. Why? Okay, moving on. Virtue of the Knightly Temper. The first time we see something like this, it is also 40 points, 40. For each attack the knight hits and wounds with on the charge before saves, he may make an additional attack. For example, if a paladin hits with 2 wounds, if the paladin hits and wounds with 2 attacks, he makes 2 additional attacks immediately before saves are made, and additional attacks are not generated. A character with this virtue may not use a magic weapon. It's a solid one. The more combat resolution you get, awesome. I like it. I don't use it all the time, but I think it's also my favorite. Virtue of Heroism, 40 points against large targets, and if armed with a non-magical weapon, the knight has the Killing Blow special ability. This overrides the normal limitations of Killing Blow only affecting man-sized models. So this is your first case of heroic Killing Blow. You roll 6 to wound a dragon, it's dead. This was very commonly used back in the day, but do you need it anymore? Not so much, because monsters are kind of gone the way of the dodo, but whatever, it's still pretty solid and it has its uses. Next, we got the Virtue of Stoicism for 35 points. The knight in any unit he has joined may reroll failed break tests. Now, that's the job of the BSB. You don't need it, but I can see you maybe finagling in, but it's coming at a magic item allotment. And I don't want to spend points on a character's magic item allotment just in case everything I did failed. And I have to reroll my break test. Virtue of the Ideal for 35 points. The knight gains the following bonuses to his profile. +2 weapon skill, +1 initiative, a +1 attack. He may not be the army's general, even if he has the highest leadership. And any friendly units, including other knightly characters, or units using the knight's leadership, let me rephrase that. Any other units within 6 of them take leadership test at -1. He is the epitome of the lone hero. He is better than everybody else, and he doesn't work well with anybody else. I'm not making any jokes. Okay, for 35 points, you can get the Virtue of the Impetuous Knight. The knight and any mounted unit he is with adds D6 to the first charge they declare. Roll after declaring the charge. If the charge is failed, the unit will not add the extra D6 to their failed charge movement. This is so good. I want this all the time, but I can't find the points per character to get it. We have Virtue of the Audacity for 30 points. Against enemy with a higher strength than the knight may reroll fail to hit and to wound rolls. Now, these guys have strength 4. So anything, monster, vampire character, a mummy character, ogre type things, anything with strength 5 or higher, you're willing to hit and to wound. 30 points, not terrible. Virtue of the Duty is something I use regularly on my BSB. You only have 1 per army and may not be taken by the general. 30 points if I didn't say. For as long as the general is alive, and this model may not be your general, the model with this virtue adds +1 to the combat resolution they're involved in. I use it regularly with my BSB, my Paladin BSB, because that BSB is adding 2 combat resolution every time on his own. We have Virtue of the Joust for 25 points. This can be comboed with a lot of good things. The knight may reroll fail to hit when charging when using a lance. Virtue of Confidence for 25 points. The knight must always issue and accept challenge, but will always accept, always accept if possible. In challenges, the knight may reroll all failed hit and wound rolls. Not terrible. You can make a good assassin type character. And this is like a magic item that really works well with this, the Gauntlet of the Duel, which we'll talk about later. And we have the Virtue of the Noble Disdain for 20 points. The knight hates all enemies using missile weapons, including war machines. In addition, the knight and a unit joined never take panic test for suffering 25% casualties from shooting or magic. Virtue of Purity for 20 points. The knight will always start the game with the Blessing of the Lady, even if the army did not pray. In addition, the ward save the knight gains from the blessing is always 5+, regardless of the strength of the attack. And that's actually solid. Oh, I turned the page, it wasn't even done. I don't know what I was thinking. 2 more. We have the Virtue of Discipline for 15 points. The enemy never gets +1 combat resolution for outnumbering. It doesn't matter because those rules no longer apply to 8th edition. So forget Virtue of Discipline. And then finally, we have Virtue of Empathy for 10 points. The knight may be fielded on foot. There's a pay 10 points to take him off his horse. In addition, if he's not the army's general, peasant units within 12 may use his leadership instead of the 6. you can make for theme battles or armies. That's actually quite useful. Okay, Blessed Heirlooms of Britonia. We have a ton of magic items, like more than I can ever use, but because I keep going the same ones over and over again, but a ton of good ones. We have for magic weapons the Silver Lance of the Bless for 65 points. It's a lance, so +2 strength in the charge, but this weapon always hits. It just always hits. There's some nice combos guaranteeing your hit because you want your knights to use combat. Yeah, gain a bunch of combat result. We have the Sword of the Quest for 50.50 points. You must have the questing vow to use this weapon. Maybe used as either a hand weapon or a great weapon. No armor saves are allowed to be taken against the Sword of the Quest. So this is very common back then to have a 50-point magic weapon that ignored armor saves. But this one was a nice bonus because it was basically a bastard sword. It allowed you to use it in one hand or two. One hand, whatever, you get to use your shield. Two-handed, you get to get +2 strength. Now, this was really good when the book came out because you would, like, when you charged, your great weapon would still strike first. Now, it's less interesting, but we have the Sword of the Ladies Champion. You must have the Grail ability to use this. It is 40 points. The character counts their strength as 1 higher than target's toughness, unless the strength would normally be higher than this. Basically, the model is always going to be winning on 3s, but if you're fighting a toughness 5 model, you count as strength 6, and the armor penetration will be adjusted as a strength 6. Now, it's 40 points. You can buy a Sword of Might for +1 strength and wound most things on 3 or 2 with just that. But like if you combine this with a couple, like if you want to make a monster hunter or a chaos lord hunt, like there's uses for this for certain combos, right? We have the Sword of Heroes for 35 points. Against enemies that have toughness 5 or greater, the bearer gets +1 strength, and each unsaved wound caused by the sword becomes D3 instead of 1. Good for hunting, war machines, monsters, a lot of things. The Heartwood Lance for 35 points. The bearer has +2 strength in the charge when mounted, and the Heartwood Lance allows the bearer to reroll all failed to wound. I like that, but I often don't use it because there's something. What was the armor that makes that Heartwood Lance a little less interesting? We have the Birth Sword of Carcassonne. 35 points. The sword is +1 to the strength of the bearer. Enemies wounded by the sword must re-roll successful armor saves. It's a solid magic item. So you're only going to be strength 5, so -2 to your opponent's armor saves. But if they successfully pass, they have to re-roll it. I think it's very worth 35 points. It's among my favorites because it's not crazy OP, but it's only 35 points. We have the Morning Star of I can't. Some French name. 25 points. The bearer has +2 strength the first round of combat. It's a flail. It's one-handed, though. For each hit in close combat, roll a d6. On a 4+, if the opponent has a magic weapon, it's destroyed. You wrap it around the weapon and you flick it away. We have the Lance of Artois for 25 points for mounted character only because it's a lance. The bearer has +2 strength on the charge when mounted. In addition, the lance confers the Killing Blow special rule on the bearer, but only the turn in which the character charges. You know what I think I forgot to mention? Britonians are able to use their lance on the charge and then draw a sword afterwards. Typically, you can't do that. You can buy a Sword of Might, which is something to keep in mind as I talk about these magic items. So you can buy the Sword of Might, which is only +1 strength. Use your lance on the charge for +2 strength, and then you draw your Sword of Might for +1 afterwards. We have the Worm Lance for 20 points. I like this one a lot because it's only 20 points. It's a lance, so you have to be mounted, +2 strength in the charge. In addition, once per game, the model wielding the Worm Lance may make a breath attack from the tip of the lance at strength 3, providing he is not in close combat. Furthermore, all attacks made by the Worm Lance count as flaming. So you can't unleash your breath weapon rules as written in close combat like a regular breath weapon could, but on a Paladin, on a Pegasus, this thing can fly on the flank of a big horde or something and do a lot of work. Now we got magic armor. We have the Gilded... Every time I pronounce this, I get a bunch of comments saying I'm saying it wrong. But the Gilded Cuirass for 55 points. It's armor. You must have the Grail Vow. Replace heavy armor and gives a 5 armor save. But the wearer gains regeneration. Not terrible for 55 points. We have Armor of the Midsummer Sun for 45 points. It's heavy armor. Opponent suffers -1 to hit. The bearer and his mount. Close combat and shooting. I want that if I'm running a Hippogriff. -1 hit me, close combat and shooting, plus getting the ward save on the mount. The mount might actually survive close combat. The Grail Shield, obviously you have to have the Grail Vow, and it's 35 points. The shield provides 6 of armor, and the blessing is increased to 4+ against attacks of any strength. But if you lose your blessing, you lose your bonus ward save. But 35 points, not terrible. The Gromrill Great Helm is an old dwarven relic gifted to the Bretonians. It's something that you're going to see very often. It adds an armor save, so it's a 6 of armor save. And you can re-roll failed armor saves. So you can get a 1-up re-rollable armor save for 30 points. The Armor of Algluf, the armor of this guy, for 25 points, replaces the armor, like the heavy armor and the shield, so you can't use a 2-handed weapon, obviously. You gain weapon skill 10. Not terrible. 25 points, but you have to have your shield in your hand, and you gain up skill 10. That would be more interesting on a Grail Knight, but you can't do it on a Grail Knight. I mean, Questing Knight character, which you can't do it on a Questing Knight character, because that weapon skill 10 might make it a little more defensible, but can't do it. Now, here's my favorite. I think my favorite item, well, no, there's some other good items. The Cuirass of Fortune for 20 points. It's heavy armor, but you reroll 1s to wound. Now, it has a bunch of combos, tons. Like, that's Virtue of Knightly Temper. Take that. Make sure you get those wounds in. You're probably wounding most things on 2s, now you automatically wound them, right? Well, not automatically, but you reroll those 1s. Or if you took the Silver Lance of the Blessed, automatically hit. You wound most things on the charge on 2s. You're basically auto-wounding. So you're basically adding... And then against a lot of things with, not a great armor save, you're almost guaranteeing your Lord throws in the combat resolution of 4. Everything hit. You're wounding on 2s, reroll the 1s, no save, adding 4 to that combat res. Orc Bing Shield, I hate this item because it's too tailory and it's too powerful. It's 15 points, it gives you 6 of armor save, but any unengaged orcs and goblins within 12 of this shield fail their animosity test on 1 or 2 instead of just 1. I don't know, I don't like that kind of stuff. But maybe one day we'll probably do it. Talismans now. We have Serene's Locket for 55 points. Only a Lord can take it, but a Prophetess can't, so it's only Bretonnia Lord. You can never suffer more than 1 wound in any phase from non-magical. It can be really good. I don't know if I want to spend 55 points on it, but that can be really frustrating to deal with. We also have the Token of the Damsel for 35 points for a Lord or Paladin only. Against the first wounding hit suffered, the way I'm going to play that is for the first wound you take, then that gets a 2 of ward save. Because what's a wounding hit? You argue it's a hit that, then whatever. So 35 points for a 2 of ward save against the first wound. A little expensive. At this moment, I just got another email from John, Stormbolter John, who is going to help these Bretonian backups in the future with the great things he was able to find. Okay, so I actually want to read it, so I want to know if he found some... Whatever. Insignia of the Quest for 30 points. Character with a questing vow only. This is a nice one. Basically, your character with a questing vow, if he gets reduced to 1 wound, he then has a 3-up ward save. And if you take a d6 wounds from a cannon, it drops you down to 1 wound. You then get your 3-up ward save, and you might survive the last wound suffered. Like that, you can tank 3-up forever. It can be really frustrating. We have the Braid of Bordelot for 25 points. It's 1 use only. The braid may be used at the start of any Bretonian turn until the beginning of the next Bretonian turn. The character's leadership value is increased by 1. In addition, once the braid has been used until the start of the next Bretonian turn, the model bearing the braid and any unit is with can move over marsh, rivers, lakes, or other strength features. Meh. Dragon's Claw for 25 points. It gives you a 5 aboard save from your Blessing of the Lady, regardless of the strength of the attack. And then, in addition, as long as the bear has a blessing, he's completely immune to fire-based attacks. This includes Warp Fire Throwers, Dragon's Breath, Aurora Fire spells, completely immune. Now, that wasn't that uncommon back then. I'm going to go ahead without checking the FAQ, assume, like everything else that is immune or was immune to fire, they just routed it into a 2 aboard save against fire. It's completely immune is dumb. We have the Mantle of Damsel Helena for 20 points. Poison attacks, this is actually pretty nice. Poison attacks do not automatically wound the character. In addition, Killing Blow does not work against the character. Only 20 points. And then we have Enchanted Items, the Falcon Horn of Friedmund for 45 points. It's 1 use only. The horn may be sounded at the start of the Bretonian turn until the start of the next Bretonian turn. No enemy unit may fly. They are forced to use the ground movement. Note that this may... blah, blah, blah. Okay, those are so good. I don't feel like I use that enough. But it's a magic item. You have to find a character to carry it and not use any magic items. I want my Bretonian characters to be killy, so I can never seem to squeeze this in, but the idea of it can be so good. We have the Holy Icon for 40 points, Magic Resistance 3. A little cheaper than the rulebook one, but we have ways of getting magic resistance with our damsels. The Ruby Goblet, I feel like I don't use this enough. 30 points. This magic item will start to take effect at the end of the first phase, during which the bear or its unit has suffered an unsaved wound. From that moment on, the bearer and his unit cannot be wounded on better than a 3+ from any non-magical source. Both throwers, crossbows, crossbows are 3+. Both throwers, cannons, great weapons, non-magical attacks from monsters, not wounding knights on 2s. Solid. Mane of the Pure Breed for 25 points. Character on Warhorse only and 1 use only. The Mane confers +1 strength to the character's Warhorse and those of any other horses in the unit within the charge. Now, remember, knights get to fight for every model on the flank, so you can get a lot of Warhorse attacks. We've seen it time and time again, the mounts do more work than knights all the time. Making those horses strength 4 instead of 3 for a turn. Not bad for 25 points. We have the Antlers of the Great... We have so many more magic items here. The Antlers of the Great Hunt for a Lord or a Paladin only for 25 points. The knight and his unit rolls an additional die when pursuing and choose the highest 3. You're gonna if somebody runs, you're gonna catch them. The Tress of Isolde for 20 points, 1 use only. Nominate 1 enemy model at the beginning of any close combat. The bear hits that model on 2+ for close combat, regardless of any modifiers. So you can make nice assassin type character, issue a challenge, get guarantee that 2 to hit, or if you're going to fight a monster, guarantee hitting on 2. Because hitting on 2s is rare. You pretty much have to buy the Sword of Striking, right? Or this 1 use item. Gauntlet of the Duel for 10 points. Any challenge issued by the bearer of the Gauntlet of the Duel cannot be refused. I like it. You can really do some assassin type things. There's nothing like building a character killer, and then your opponent you can't quite get in base contact with the character you want to fight. So you want to try to challenge them, but they're just going to refuse. They're going to refuse. They're going to refuse. Let's talk about our awesome arcane items. The Silver Mirror for 40 points. It acts like a Dispel Scroll, except for the wizard who cast the spell. That was dispelled by the Silver Mirror. Takes a Strength 6 hit. Who cares? That's awesome. That's cool. That can finish off a wizard. But a second Dispel Scroll? Now, we kind of at Mini Wargaming stopped, and Mountain Ventures, to be honest with you. Both of us. Well, we're all the same. We stopped using Dispel Scrolls because it kind of got a lot of fun. They're too reliable, too good. But having an army that can have 2? Awesome. Sacrament of the Lady for 40 points. At the start of any Bretonnia magic phase, the bearer may use the sacrament. The model generates double its usual number of power die. I don't know how this works. You generated dice differently back then. I had to check the FAQ. I actually couldn't find the FAQ. I keep losing my FAQs. I buy a new computer or whatever, and I forget to transfer all my files over. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to assume that item was just removed from 8th edition because it doesn't apply. Or they may rework it completely. The Verdant Heart for 40 points. Any woods or forest that the bear is within counts as very difficult terrain as long as the character remains wholly within the terrain feature. In addition, the bear gains +1 to cast from the Lore of Life. +1 to cast for 40 points. Pretty good. It's pretty good if you got a Damsel on foot inside some archer unit hiding in the wood, casting heal spells. But you don't really want you want your Lore of Life closer to your knights. So it's not that, honestly, it's not that useful. But if you can find a really good combo, let me know. The prayer icon of Quinels, this person. 25 points. The prayer icon can be revealed at any time. The bearer and the unit she is with is immediately granted the blessing of the lady. And this allows the unit to regain a blessing that they lost. I'm never going to use this because I never want to lose my blessing, or I'm always going to pray. Best magic item for them, as far as I'm concerned, is next. The Chalice of Mayfleur for 20 points. At the start of the opponent's magic phase, the bearer may drink from the chalice. If she does so, on a roll of 1, she rolls a die. She suffers 1 wound with no saves allowed, including ward saves. No ward saves either. On a roll of 2+, you get +1 dispel dice. So it's effectively almost always an additional dispel dice in every magic phase. Just hopefully you have the Lore of Life somewhere to heal her up for every 1 she rolls. And then we have the Potion Sacre. 1 use only for 10 points. This is used before rolling a dice to cast or dispel a spell. After the dice is rolled, the player may add 1 to the result of one of the dice. This may cause irresistible force or prevent a miss. You have to declare you're using it before you roll your spell, and then you can then add 1 afterwards. So if you want to throw 6 dice at something, you don't want to risk. Well, double ones doesn't matter anymore, but at the time it did, because if you roll double ones, you miscast, and double sixes it is irresistible force. Now they're both the same at double 6. But if you really want to guarantee a big spell, maybe Dwellers Below, you get 1/6 and 1/5, boom. But you have to declare before you roll. But it's only 10 points. Alright, magic banners. Banner of the Lady for 100 points. Typically, I don't like using the 100-point magic banners. This one I've used more than once. Unit in base contact with the banner of the Lady get no combat bonus for ranks. So you're going to get some combat bonus for ranks because you're 3 wide. A bunch of you do charging, extra attacks with lances, do some work. You got to mitigate. You're removing 3 from their combat bonus already. Maybe he has the BSB adds Virtue of Duty. Yeah, adding +1 for his banner, +1 for the Virtue of Duty. There's one model that is a 5 combat resolution swing. Expensive though. We have the I do like it, and we'll use it often. The Valora Standard for 50 points. It's for knight unit only. The unit rolls 3d6 for all leadership-based tests, including break tests, and discards its highest. The problem with it is it's too expensive. I'm gonna confirm, make sure I'm correct. Yeah, it's too expensive to go on Knights of the Realm where I really want it. And then there's different banners I want on the questing or the Grail Knights, but it's a 50-point get a jail free card if you lost combat with your Grail Knights, right? Banner of Defense for 30 points. As long as the unit is affected by the blessing, they gain a 4 board save against missiles with strength 5 or more. I can't remember what Twilight Banner does. For 25 points, is 1 use only. The Twilight Banner can be used in the remaining moves section of a turn. Can't use if you charge. Except for no movement penalty for moving over difficult terrain or obstacles. It can move through buildings. Oh, they become ethereal. They gain ethereal movement for a turn. Not bad. The Conqueror's Tapestry oh damn! I wish I found it. I wish I got the FAQ. Every enemy standard captured by the unit possessing the Conqueror's Tapestry is worth 200 points. That's not the case. No, instead of 100. But if your opponent gains your Conqueror's Tapestry, they get 2. So basically, banners used to give you different points. Now you get 25 points for banner and 100 points for BSB. I'm going to assume this thing is you get twice as many points from captured banners by this unit. But it itself gives up twice as many points to the enemy if it is captured. Oh, but there's also more changes. Back in the day, like you basically units. You know what? I don't have to explain old rules. This is an item that probably doesn't work anymore at all. Okay, next we have the Errant Tree banner. It's awesomely terrible. It's for Knights Errant only. Is 20 points. When Knights Errant charge, they have +1 strength, so they become strength 6 on the charge with their. However, they're -2 leadership for any impetuous test. It's such a liability. This is going to cost you the game. Never do it. I'm going to do it every time. I love it. I love the idea of it. I'm doing it every time. It's going to cost me every game. And then the banner of Echelons for 10 points. The enemy cannot choose to stand and shoot against the unit carrying the banner. Don't need it. But, there you go. So, I think this is probably one of the best looking armies in the game. I've had multiple Bretonnian armies. I finally feel I'm at the skill level to paint a Bretonnian army that I never would have had the balls to paint years ago. Like, it's not gonna be the best looking Bretonnian. If I paint it up, it won't be the best looking thing ever, but I will be happy with it. But there's something about this army that people just love, and like you can still find the miniatures out there on eBay, but people ask just a ridiculous price for Bretonnians. I don't know what it is. I think maybe we're all getting better painters. We all love this when we're kids, and now we're all confident painters. And we want to get painting Bretonnians, but I don't know if because I every year I'll check, and there's still tons of Bretonnian battalions out there. Are there a lot out there selling for a high price, or have these been sitting around forever, never being sold, and people still want $200 to $600? I don't know. What is it about Bretonnians that you love? Why is it the most jacked up price old miniatures out there? Kinda. Why is this the oldest book that I'll still play with and still, have a good time and win some games with too? It's not that bad. Bretonnians, man. I think it's my favorite army. It is my favorite army. And I'm going to go ahead and work on a Green Knight now after some emails. And then maybe work on some Battle Pilgrims and get some new stuff in a second Trebuchet as well I got now. So whatever, that's awesome. So yeah, we'll get some more Bretonnians and Bat Reps out hopefully soon. Actually, I know soon. But there you go, guys. There's the Bretonnian 17, 18 years late review. I got nothing negative to say about the book, because even the things that are bad, I love. Awesome army. My first army, technically. Tell me why you love Bretonnians. And stay tuned for more of these.